Me and my girlfriend Jasmine have been planning and saving for over a year to go on the trip of a lifetime across Southeast Asia. After lots of hard research, our plan is to start in Bangkok, Thailand and work our way around 11 different countries until we reach our final destination, Beijing, China. We'll be catching flights, buses, boats and any other means of transport as we explore new cultures, go on epic adventures and pick up memories that we hope will last a lifetime. We'll be recording as much of our trip as we can using our cameras, GoPros, iPhones and drone. There's a few big questions we need to answer. Will we handle almost 5 months of travelling together? Will we run out of money? Can Southeast Asia handle the female version of Cole Pilkington? Fasten your seatbelts. Prepare for a bumpy ride. This is our adventure. This is Bangkok to Beijing. Previously on Bangkok to Beijing. Our journey started in the incredible country of Thailand as we spent the New Year period in Bangkok.
My first meal of the year was a bit of a scorpion's pincers.
We then headed south to Railay Beach, where Thailand's worst storm in 30 years threatened our entire trip.
It's day 2 of the storm, Prabang, and we've been stranded here for another day. The ferries weren't running to Koh Phi Phi again.
After that, we visited the Koh Phi Phi Islands, made famous by the beach starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Following a stop in the chilled island of Koh Lanta, we headed east to the crazy island of Koh Phangan, famous for its full and half moon parties. After a stop in Koh Samui and a failed diving disaster in Koh Tao, we headed north to the city of Chiang Mai, where we got stuck into some amazing activities. The journey continues as we leave Thailand and head to Laos.
So we're now in Vientiane, which is the capital of Laos. We got the flight to Vientiane earlier in Thailand and hopped across the border. The process of getting the visa and then getting the bus across the border, which is basically a giant bridge to get over to Laos, was a bit confusing, but we got here in the end. So we're just having a quick walk from the hotel, which is just around the corner, to the night market here in Vientiane. We're going to have a bit of sightseeing tomorrow and then head north. But yeah, it's a little bit different to Thailand, but I'm sure we'll adjust.
And by a little bit different, we actually mean a lot different. As soon as we crossed into Laos, we could tell it was a lot less developed than Thailand. The price of food, drink and almost everything was less than half what we've been used to paying. The first time we went to withdraw cash, we became instant millionaires. The following day we explored Vientiane, beginning with the Patuxi War Monument, built to honour those who fought in the struggle for independence against France. The American government actually provided concrete and funds to build a new runway, but instead, the Laos government decided to build this monument. Because of that reason, it was given the nickname the Vertical Runway. Laos is a country that we didn't know too much about before visiting, and we were staggered to learn that it's the most heavily bombed country in history. During the Vietnam War, more bombs were dropped on Laos than the amount used during the whole of World War II. The very sad fact is some 80 million unexploded bombs continue to maim and kill Laotian men, women and children. To gain a better understanding of the devastation caused and the ongoing problems, we tried to visit the Cope Visitor Centre, a non-profit organisation which provides prosthetic limbs and rehab for Lao people. Unfortunately, when we tried to visit there was a power cut and so the museum wasn't open. However, it's highly recommended if you do visit Vientiane. So we're here at the Pha That Luang museum temple thing. It's 44 metres high. It looks like it's coated in gold, but I can guarantee you it'll just be concrete painted in a metallic yellow. We've just had a walk from the hotel. We've been to the first building, which was the monument that the government here built many years ago when they became independent from the French. The ironic thing is, history lesson for the day, that it actually looks quite similar to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, so weird. But it's so quiet here. In Thailand, all of these sort of monuments and temples and things were like chock-a-block. Here there's like nobody. It's completely different to Thailand. Feels like they've got a lot less money and infrastructure.
and just generally less Western tourists. I think there's not that many people come here, which is a shame, but it is what it is.
The following day we jumped on the bus journey from Hao as we headed north to the town of Vang Vieng. We had to endure 4.5 hours on probably the bumpiest roads in the entire world. The roads are basically dirt and dust tracks with thousands of potholes and craters, which left us with a pretty sore arse. To be honest, the journey ended up being completely worth it as we embarked on a crazy few days of high adrenaline activities.
So today we're going to hire a dune buggy, desert buggy. I think it's like 1 litre, so it's going to be pretty rapid. And we're going to head up and see some of the sites around Vang Vieng. Just to put it into perspective, it's basically a dusty cowboy desert town in the middle of the countryside with some epic limestone mountains. It's got a nice river. We're going to do the tubing tomorrow, where you basically sit on a inflated tractor thing and get pissed up. So we've just took a load of photos here at Blue Lagoon number 3 in Vang Vieng. Jazz has kindly pointed out I just had a massive bogey down my face.
It's dead green, isn't it?
It's nice of her. Yeah,
I didn't put it there, it's your phone.
It's lovely here. It's a shame we've missed the sun. The sun basically goes behind. Oh, this guy just going on the mud.
Changed your mind?
Oh, almost. Unlike me, these guys are acrobats. But yeah, the sun basically goes behind these rocks here. That's why it might not seem very sunny, but if you go 20 metres that way, it's actually bright sunshine, which is a shame, but never mind. It's a bit bumpy on the roads and a bit dusty, but we're having fun, aren't we?
I don't know, you can't tell if I'm smiling or not. I'm like really sad.
Woohoo!
The next day we were back on the activity trail with the famous Vang Vieng river tubing. The process is pretty simple. You sit on your tube in the river and stop off at a number of bars along the way. As you can imagine, the day ends up pretty damn messy. In fact, I'd only been on my tube for around 10 seconds without a single drink before the river claimed its first victim.
Ow! Oh, it just flipped me. Oh. Hello. Hello. Don't know if you can see over my left shoulder. There's a woman just casually washing her arse in the river. When in Vang Vieng, do as the locals do. So, brief history on the Vang Vieng tubing. It was a popular thing to do back, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years ago, and the government here banned it. 27 or 22 people died in a single year just by doing lots of alcohol and drugs and jumping off very dangerous slides and zip wires into the water and stuff. So they've reined it back. They reckon thousands used to come every day, but there's not thousands today, that's for sure. Probably 50 people in the bar we've just been. So you start at the first bar, and then there's a couple of bars along the way, and you end up in the last bar. But Apparently it's meant to take about 3 hours, and the river is so bloody slow at the minute. I think we're going to be here quite a while, to be honest. But yeah, it's so relaxing. I mean, the weather is like 30 odd degrees, and it's just completely chilled. Just need a can. I wish I'd have bought a can from the last bar. Yeah. Pardon my French. A snake has just swam across the river, jumped out onto the other bank. Jazz is not happy. Like, there ain't any more.
After a few more drinks we got back on the river, where unfortunately for Jazz it started to get quicker.
Oh shit, yeah. It's gone straight for the oh, shit. That's the same fate as me. Got the tube! You alright? You alright? I'll get it for you, Jazz. So Jazz has just come off. Oh shit. I've got to go and try and save her. Alright. I thought you were going to drown.
So yeah, basically there was a really quick section where you had to avoid a rock and a tree. Unfortunately, Jazz noticed them too late and the current dragged her straight into the rock. Ouch.
Hello. How are you? Oh, nice one. Thank you.
All in all, tubing turned out to be one of the highlights of our entire trip. We met some great people and had such a laugh. If you're heading to Laos, you need to have a day out tubing. So me and Jazz are about to go and do something that we've never done before. I'm pretty excited and slightly nervous as well, so it's going to be so good. He's done this before.
Is he doing this?
Woohoo! Oh, that's awesome. Jazz has died. Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it until I started to die.
After 4 magical days in Vieng, it was time to head to our final location in Laos, Luang Prabang. Getting here involved yet another dangerous and bumpy minibus ride taking 4 to 5 hours. We saw a pretty bad crash along the way, with a lorry overturned and the driver lucky not to have fallen off the mountain. After that, it was safe to say we were glad to finally arrive in Luang Prabang, the ancient capital of Laos. The city lies between the famous Mekong and Nam Can rivers and is a UNESCO World Heritage Centre. After dropping off our bags, we climbed the 328 steps up Mount Fusi, a sacred hill providing incredible views. We loved exploring the night market and riverfront, but the main highlight was still to come. We headed to Quang Falls and were super excited until we came across these guys. These majestic animals are the endangered Asiatic black bears, also known as moon bears. We learned that thousands of these bears are held across Asia in horrifying conditions. They're regularly milked for their bile, an ingredient used in many Chinese traditional medicines. Fortunately, the Free the Bears charity has established rescue centres in Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, and also helps to raise awareness of illegal wildlife trade across Southeast Asia. After spending some time watching the bears, we continued along the trail to the falls and were mind blown with what we came across.
We're here at Quang Falls, just outside Luang Prabang. It was about a 45-minute drive here, and it didn't feel like that. It felt like a bit longer, to be honest, but I was a bit shorter. Jazz thinks a bit shorter. I thought it was a bit longer, but this place is just epic on every level. The water is, honestly, you don't need a filter, you don't need an Instagram filter, you don't need any colour grading. That water is just such a nice blue. It's got like a bit of a cloudy look to it from the limestone off the rocks. There's so many different pools, it's just absolutely awesome. One of the best places I've been to. I think you'd probably agree as well, Joe, but the water was a bit cold to start with, but then when you go for it, it's just so refreshing, awesome. Oh, when you fall in epically on the rocks, as me and Jazz tend to do quite a lot on this trip, but we're having such a good day, it's the best.
And now that you're gone, I'm thinking about old times. I've waited so long for this to be
This water is so refreshing, it's unbelievable.
Quang Falls was one of them places that really left us gobsmacked. We spent so much time messing around in the pools, we didn't even realise there was a main waterfall. The visit to the falls topped off our 1-week Laos adventure, and honestly, we didn't think Laos would be anywhere near as good as it was. It was brilliant, and we were actually sad to move on, but we were also kind of excited as we caught our flight to Hanoi and began our Vietnam journey, passing through Halong Bay, Da Nang, Hoi An, Nha Trang, Mune and finally Saigon. Located in northern Vietnam, the capital Hanoi is a bustling city known for its old architecture and rich culture of Chinese and French colonial influences. The population is just under 8 million people, but get this, there are almost 6 million motorbikes on the road. That's a lot of bikes causing mayhem, as we instantly found out. One of the top things to do in Hanoi is the water puppet show, a bizarre art form that dates back to the 11th century. We have to admit, the show was very unusual, but gave us an artistic insight to ancient Vietnamese culture. Later that night, we headed out to celebrate Tet, the Vietnamese New Year, which, like China, welcomed in the Year of the Pig. Honestly, it felt like almost all 8 million people in Hanoi flocked to the Old Quarter to watch the annual firework display. After we failed to find a decent spot to watch the fireworks, we decided to try and head back towards the hotel, but we were stuck in a little bit of a motorbike jam. Eventually, we found a hotel with a rooftop bar and kept our fingers crossed we'd be able to see the Tet fireworks. As we made our way back, the streets were lined with people burning fake money and displaying offerings, an ancient tradition where it's believed anything burned will be passed over to your deceased family members. Our last full day in Hanoi was spent exploring the Hoa Lo Vietnam War Prison and the Ba Dinh Square, which is the location for the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum. Inside the mausoleum, Ho Chi Minh's body is preserved and can still be viewed today. Now, I won't bore you with too much info, but Ho Chi Minh is known as the Great Father of Vietnam. He's one of the most important figures in Vietnam's history. Basically, he was responsible for leading Vietnam to independence from the French in 1945 and unifying Vietnam. After the Vietnam War, the former capital, Saigon, was renamed Ho Chi Minh City in his honour. The following day we were picked up for a 3-hour bus journey to reach the port for our Halong Bay 3-day 2-night cruise. Halong Bay is a famous UNESCO World Heritage Centre and is the setting for a number of films including Kong, Skull Island and James Bond Tomorrow Never Dies. It's known for emerald waters and thousands of limestone islands topped by rainforests. The first night we stayed on board, which was pretty cool, although we weren't a massive fan of the military style itinerary, and so we kinda did our own thing, like chilling out, taking in the epic views and flying the drone. After our night on board, we were up early for breakfast before heading on a traditional Vietnamese boat to a hidden lagoon. After that, we then set sail to spend the night on a secluded island and saw a couple of huge sea eagles along the way. Yeah, we haven't done much vlogging recently. We've enjoyed our time in Hanoi and we're now on a trip in Halong Bay.
and we're spending a night on this secluded beach called, I think it's Cat Bay Island or Cat Bat Island. And if you can see behind me, the limestone rocks, the beaches, the island, it's just incredible. I think the group we're in, I think there's maybe 5 bungalows being used. I think there's only about 10 here anyway, so I think there's less than 20 people on this entire, little stretch. Absolutely remarkable place. I'm so chuffed that we came here. We could have done 2 nights on the cruise, but we did 1 night here and 1 night on the cruise last night, which was okay, but it was just a little bit too much itinerary going on. Jazz hated it. We had to be up for breakfast at like 7 a.m. and then out on a trip to a little cave, which was cool, but it's all on their sort of time schedule, which was a pain. But yeah, we're going to have a nice chill day here, enjoying it. We're also going to try and do a bit of kayaking.
Our day and night on Cat Bat Island was one of the highlights of our trip for sure. We enjoyed a banquet of food, met some great people, and also welcomed a special guest to the beach. Yep, it turned out to be a pretty poisonous snake, and our guide handled it like a true professional. Just kidding, he ran off and got a big stick. The next part of our trip involved a flight to Da Nang, where we enjoyed the rooftop sea views and a visit to the Barna Hills, a mountain-top resort cum theme park where the Facebook famous Golden Bridge is located. Getting to the resort requires a ride on the world's highest and longest mountain cable car system. As soon as you pass through the clouds, you can see the Golden Bridge.
Elevated. Yeah.
The rest of the theme park / resort / castle thing was full of some weird and wonderful things, but not really many rides. It was interesting to see how obsessed the locals were with the Western resort staff. A lot of people were desperate for photos with them. Another thing we soon learned in Southeast Asia is that nobody has respect for personal space or queuing, as perfectly demonstrated by this crazy woman who decided to block our view with her big green brolly. After a couple of hours exploring, we headed back down the mountain to bring our time in Da Nang to an end. The following day we jumped in a taxi and headed to Hoi An, just a 45-minute drive away. Hoi An is known for its well-preserved ancient town which has a mix of Chinese, French and Japanese influence. Unfortunately we lost a lot of the daytime footage from Hoi An, but still managed to pick out this photo, showing a family of 5 on a single scooter. At night, the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Hoi An comes to life as the colourful lanterns light up the ancient city.
We're just enjoying this little cruise on the river in Hoi An, and it's beautiful, to be honest. Oh, there's lanterns everywhere. It is quite beautiful, and there's plenty of the lanterns on the river, the candlelit ones. It's pretty awesome.
As you can see, Hoi An was a magical place. Now our next move was to head south to the city of Nha Trang, but because of the Tet New Year holidays, there were no flights, trains or buses available due to high demand. Fortunately, the lovely Vietnamese family who owned the hotel we were staying at stepped in and got us tickets for a 12-hour overnight sleeper bus. The short story basically goes like this. We waited for the sleeper bus and a huge crowd of people pushed right in front of us and took all of the beds apart from 2 right at the back of the bottom bunk. Now these seats had no aircon, didn't allow you to sit up whatsoever, just think of a bunk bed but without much of a gap between the top and bottom, and either side of the seats were Vietnamese farmers who smelt like their name suggested. Having assessed the potential 12 hours of claustrophobic hell, we thought, F this, and jumped back off the bus. Yes, we had no backup plan, nowhere to stay for the night, and no way of getting to Nha Trang, but it was a completely justified decision. So, skip forward 10 minutes, and following an argument with the bus company, they called the hotel we were staying at. Literally, a few minutes later, the owner's son arrived, put us straight into a taxi and whisked us back to the hotel. For some reason they apologised, even though it wasn't their fault or problem, and even put us up in the hotel for an extra night for free. Honestly, these were some of the nicest people we've ever met. We can't thank them enough for their amazing hospitality. So the next night, we arrived early and finally got a decent seat on the sleeper bus to Nha Trang. Despite the driver constantly blasting the horn, a stop at the dodgiest place ever, and the bus being completely oversold, we finally made it to Nha Trang at 5:30 am, a mere 8 hours before we could check into our hotel.
Good morning from Nha Trang. We are on the beach, we survived the bus, and Jazz has just kindly pointed out there's some lads in the sea in their jeans. This country just goes from weird to weirder. Yeah, we're both a little bit tired this morning. We've been for a coffee and a croissant, which was a bit of a tasty treat. For a bit of money perspective, we had a cappuccino, a nice chocolate milk, which are the absolute bomb over here, and you've probably heard us talking about it before, but they are the best. It's just like chocolate milk with ice, but it's so refreshing and tasty. And then 2 pain au chocolat, that came to like just under £4 British, so absolutely fine. One of the main reasons we're here in Nha Trang is to go to that place across the water, which is called Vientiane Land, and it's one of Vietnam's biggest water theme parks, zoo, aquarium places. And there's a cable car, another cable car, which is just over 3 kilometres long, and it's the biggest cable car system in the entire world. So we're going to go and have a fun day out there tomorrow. Oh God, somebody selling something with claws and tentacles. What's she got here?
What's that?
What the hell is that? Lobster. Oh.
Happy hour.
Oh, it stinks. I'm a vegetarian. I'm not just.
Oh my days.
If it was alive, I'd bite and set it free.
Happy hour.
Is it alive still?
It loves it. Really would love it.
Yeah, it's still alive. Doesn't look alive. Oh, we don't eat fish.
Yeah.
So today we're here at Vientiane Land, Nha Trang, which is, I believe, Vietnam's biggest theme park. Castle there very much resembles Disney, just on a bit of a tin pot scale. It looks like something my dad's knocked up. They've asked him to build the castle, and he's got his mates around with some 2x4 and a bit of PVA glue.
Oh yeah.
I promise you the skirting board ain't finished in there though.
We started our day at Vientiane by watching a couple of sea lion and dolphin shows. Now we know a lot of people don't agree with animals in captivity and performing, but trust us, there are a lot worse places these guys can end up in Southeast Asia. Inspired by the sea lions, it was time to hit up the lazy river, water slides and wave pool. Following that, we tackled some of the rides, including the Alpine coaster. Incredible view here on the top. Sweaty, Jazz is in front, see if we can catch her up. Great. Next up, we got an epic view over Vientiane land and the Trang from the huge Ferris wheel. After a quick walk through the zoo, our day was complete and we headed home for an early night, ready to move south to Mune the following day. Oh, and as we'd become so accustomed to sleeper buses, guess what? We managed to bag tickets to a 5-hour gig down to Mune. Located in southeast Vietnam, Mune is a coastal fishing town with a number of hostels and hotels. We decided to go here to explore the scenic fairy springs, sand dunes and relaxed beach vibes. Our accommodation in Mune was the Vietnam Backpackers Hostel, an easygoing and affordable destination perfectly located within reach of all the activities we wanted to do. Throughout our trip, we occasionally stayed at hostels for a change of scenery, and generally, hostels offer the best deals and inside info. Plus, of course, they offer pretty cheap beer. After a day settling in, we headed on a trip to see the Fairy Stream, Fishing Village, and the white and red sand dunes. The Fairy Stream is basically a shallow stream running through a dramatic landscape of red and orange rocks on one side, contrasted with the lush green jungle on the other side. Whilst the Fairy Stream was a nice place to visit, it was one of those locations we thought looked better on Instagram than in real life. The next stop was a viewpoint over the fishing village, followed by a drive out to the white sand dunes. The last stop of the day was the red sand dunes, which were cool but slightly ruined by the sheer amount of litter scattered all over the place. We spent our final day in Mune exploring the beach and coming across the coolest thing we'd seen in Vietnam so far: a surfing dog. Our time in Mune came to an end, and our final destination in Vietnam was Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon. There was only one real option for transport to Saigon. Yep, you guessed it, it's sleeper bus time. We're on yet another sleeper bus, and we're on the back of the bus, and we are not happy. The guy driving and his mate is just a idiot.
Stop swearing like that.
Chaz has told me not to swear, but the guy's just a grade 8.
Everyone's listening to you and you stand like an idiot.
Nobody's listening because they've all got headphones in and they're all too busy Instagram. So this is the state of our life right now. We arrived in Ho Chi Minh City after about 4 hours and were greeted by even more people and even more scooters. We stayed in the Vietnam Backpackers Hostel, which had a great rooftop bar providing views over the city. Commonly known as Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City is the largest city in Vietnam and was the last city to fall, which brought an end to the Vietnam War in 1975. We set about exploring the next day with a free walking tour provided by the hostel.
Right, we're just doing a walking tour with one of the guides from the hostels we're staying in, and we're here at the Vientiane market, which is one of the oldest markets in Vietnam apparently, so just going to have a quick look around. Jazz wants to buy a fan because it's very humid today and she's forgot her fan, so see if she can do some bartering.
Yeah. How much?
You want the red one?
Yeah. Only one How much?
Yeah, just a one.
150.
150?
Maximum.
30? Will you do 30? 30?
Okay, 100.
No way.
100.
That's
last.
way off.
100.
40 last deal. Yeah?
Huh?
40?
Okay, 80 please. 80.
80's too much. 80's way too much.
Alright.
Okay, the 50.
50? Okay. Thank you.
Thôi 150 ly ơi.
She doesn't look happy. The lady does not look happy. Just got the fan for Jazz. She started off at 150 and we managed to get it for 50, but we paid like 20 or 30 in Hoi An for the last fan, which is like just under £1, so we probably paid maybe £1.70 for that one. It is what it is. It's just a fan, but we could have probably got it cheaper if we'd wanted, but 50 from 150, we'll take that. If you ever come to Vietnam or Thailand, stay away from the durian. It absolutely stinks, like literally the worst smell you've ever smelled in your entire life.
Notices of eviction have been put against everyone in there.
After checking out famous buildings such as the Opera House, the Notre Dame Cathedral and the Central Post Office, we made a pretty emotional trip to the War Remnants Museum, which contained many exhibits and artefacts from the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War is something we've all heard of, but many of us don't actually know or understand what happened. The war was fought between the government of North Vietnam against South Vietnam and its main ally, the United States. The US was backing South Vietnam to try and prevent the spread of communism throughout Southeast Asia and then consequently the world. Lasting over 20 years in total, more than 3 million people were killed. More than half of the dead were Vietnamese civilians. There are stories and photos showing many inhumane killings, tortures and war crimes committed by both sides. It was a brutal and unforgiving war that the American government didn't expect to lose. In fact, it's only the second war the US has lost in its entire history. Sadly, as we experienced in Laos, the after effects of the war still devastate families and lives today. The mass use of Agent Orange, a herbicide chemical which destroyed jungle and cover for the opposition army, still has brutal effects today. More than 19 million gallons of Agent Orange were sprayed during the war. It contained the deadly chemical dioxin, which was later proven to cause cancer, birth defects, rashes and neurological problems among huge populations of Vietnamese people, as well as returning US soldiers and their families. Overall, the War Museum was a very sombre and eye-opening experience which showed the full horror of a terrible war. The following day we went on a trip to the Cu Chi War tunnels, where we got to experience the Viet Cong guerrilla tactics, jungle traps, and we also got to shoot some AK-47s, one of Jazz's favourite hobbies. I ended up accidentally deleting the footage, but we highly recommend this trip if you visit Saigon. Our last trip in Vietnam was an adventure to the famous Mekong Delta, a vast maze of rivers, swamps and islands. First of all, we visited the traditional Buddhist temple which had a giant Buddha, reclining Buddha and really impressive interior. After that, it was time to head across the river to experience some of the weird and wonderful local traditions and crafts, such as honey production and random things made from crocodiles. The trip was completely bizarre but really enjoyable. Unless of course you don't like snakes, but me and Jazz don't have an issue with snakes. Oh, wait. Yeah, Jazz isn't a fan of snakes. Anyway, we were treated to a selection of unusual fruit whilst we enjoyed some local Vietnamese music. And finally, it was our turn to jump on a boat and explore the maze of jungle rivers. Lunch was included as part of the trip, and it's safe to say we didn't have a huge appetite. However, they kindly made Jazz a vegetarian dish, which she was pretty excited about. That's until it arrived with tentacles hanging out of it. Yes, they put octopus and seafood in a vegetarian meal. Pretty minging if you ask me. After visiting a weird crocodile and random animal farm, we headed back on the river towards home. That was until our boat got caught up in the mangroves.
Yeah, beautiful.
We're stranded. Are you scared?
About?
Being stranded on a boat?
Luckily, the boat guy managed to get us free and we headed home. Like Laos, Vietnam was a country that really caught us off guard. It was weird, wonderful, and had the friendliest of people. The 3 weeks we spent there absolutely flew by, and we were gutted to be leaving. I think we've both agreed we have to go back and see more of Vietnam. Now, our attentions turned to Cambodia, which unfortunately was the victim of a tight schedule. Originally, we allocated at least a week for Cambodia, but because of many lost days due to Storm Prabang in Thailand and the Tet holiday in Vietnam, we only had 4 days to get in, explore Siem Reap, complete Angkor Wat, the world's largest temple complex, and then finally head on to Singapore. We got stuck into the action on our first day by exploring the town of Siem Reap. Now, most people only visit Siem Reap as a base to explore the major Cambodian ruins and ancient temples, but we actually enjoyed the town itself with its bustling market with plenty of bargains on offer, and of course its fantastic walking street filled with bars and restaurants. Now, this place really comes to life at night. Talking of night, we couldn't stay out late as our alarm clock was set for 4 AM the next morning, ready to embark on an expedition like no other to the world famous Angkor Wat.
It's just gone 3:30 and today we are up at stupid o'clock. We were up at 4 o'clock and it's not because Jazz's arse has been bit to shreds.
He really has though.
We must be mad, I don't know. We're going today to the Angkor Wat temple, which is basically the main attraction of Siem Reap here in Cambodia. We were going to rig out in all the Indiana Jones stuff, but Jazz bottled it. So we're going to get picked up in a minute. We got a tuk-tuk for the day. He's going to drive us around the main temples. Angkor Wat's the biggest temple in the world and it's spread over a 100-kilometre square sort of complex. So it's quite big, and to get around there you need a tuk-tuk. Other advantage of us going early is that we get to hopefully get a decent sunrise, hopefully miss, you know, the hottest part of the day potentially. Depends how long we're there, but yeah, looking forward to it. Jazz is going to put some Lara Croft pigtails in and then we're going to go explore all the ruins and stuff. And if none of that actually made sense, it's because it's too early in the morning. 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 How are you?
Yeah, good. And you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Breakfast.
Excellent, lovely.
See, the thing is, me and Jazz aren't really budding historians, and by this point, Jazz had certainly saw enough temples for one trip, but Angkor Wat was unmissable. There are over 50 Buddhist and Hindu temples dating back to the 12th century. Many of them look like they've been swallowed by the jungle, and of course, the Taprom Temple featured in both the video game and movie version of Tomb Raider. As one of the largest temple complexes in the world and the UNESCO World Heritage Site, we had to go. Our day started in darkness as we followed the trail to the sacred lake for a view of Angkor Wat at sunrise.
So it's just gone 6:30 and I've left Jazz outside and I've come to explore around the main temple here at Angkor Wat. I think because we're here so early, it's really quiet. There aren't many people around at all in this main bit. Yeah, incredible. It does feel like I'm in Tomb Raider or something, just expecting to find some gold rings and have to jump over a tiger or something. It's amazing, just look behind. Over 1,000 years old, well, almost 1,000 years old. The sun is bright red. I've never seen anything like that. It's like fluorescent orange red, isn't it? Wow.
Angkor Wat was a truly exceptional experience and well worth the 4 AM get up. We beat almost all of the crowds, and by the time we arrived back to the hotel, the thermometer said it was 42 degrees. We can tell you now, the temples are not the place to be in the heat. With our Angkor Wat experience over, so was our brief journey to Cambodia. Experienced backpackers will be mad that we didn't visit Koh Rong, Sihanoukville and Phnom Penh, but there's always next time. We waved goodbye to our tuk-tuk driver Mr. Jam and left Cambodia the following day to head to the world's most expensive city, Singapore.
We're just waiting for our flight to Singapore. There's absolutely nowhere to sit in this airport, but it's all right because there's about 50 bags down here, look, all lined up in a row. We've asked if we can just move them across, which wouldn't be a problem normally in any normal walk of life. People say, oh yeah, just move them across, not a problem, have a seat. We tried to move them and
she started screaming.
booting off at me. Get off my bag! Unbelievable, Jeff. So now we're forced to sit on the floor, right by them. Disgraceful behaviour.
With a full-on Mardon, we boarded the plane to Singapore, and it honestly felt like going forward 100 years. If Cambodia was the chalk, Singapore was certainly the cheese. We had 3 days in Singapore, and despite knowing it was expensive, we'd heard good things, and also my dad was born there, so I guess I was just curious. That being said, the whole city and suburbs have been revamped into a futuristic metropolis, probably unrecognisable to anyone that hasn't visited for over 20 years, let alone 50 years. We started by exploring the city down by Marina Bay. Later that night, we returned to Gardens by the Bay for the nighttime show. Gardens by the Bay is a nature park containing super trees, giant mesmerising structures standing up to 50 metres high and filled with plants, greenery and powerful LED lights. At night, the whole park comes alive with a pretty awesome light show. The light show was epic and takes place twice every night. The best part is that it's completely free, which is surprising considering how expensive Singapore generally is. The average price of a beer in Singapore is roughly £8, just to give you an idea. Anyway, we headed back to the hotel, and to my absolute delight, we were able to order a delivery for a little home comfort known as Nando's. Oh yes, Singapore has Nando's, and they deliver to your door. What a treat. The following day, we jumped on the subway to Universal Singapore. As huge theme park nerds, we couldn't resist a day trip here. Now, it's not quite on the same level as Universal in Orlando, but it does have some awesome rides such as the Mummy and Jurassic Park.
Her, ladies and gentlemen, isn't she beautiful? Woo, yeah, okay. Yeah, I know, I hear that distress call, darling. She's very hungry, okay?
Sadly, our time in Singapore came to an end, but we had one last experience. The airport itself. We arrived here ready for our flight to the Philippines and were shocked to find a huge indoor jungle garden with waterfalls and ponds. We also found a swimming pool, millions of restaurants, gyms, spas and pretty much anything you'd ever need. Anyway, this entire second leg of our journey had so many highlights, with Laos and Vietnam really surprising us. We then moved on to Cambodia and Singapore, which also delivered the goods. Like we said with Thailand in episode 1, the memories from these countries will stay with us, but it's impossible for us not to want to go back and explore them even more. Thank you all for watching. We hope you've enjoyed the journey so far, and here's what's coming up in the awesome episode number 3. We arrive in the Philippines and start at the island paradise of Boracay to check out one of the world's best beaches.
Just got down to the beach here in Boracay, and it is the stuff of dreams.
We then take a flight to the island of Bohol, where we hit the wildlife jackpot, but then come crashing back down to earth with an almighty bump.
Oh my god!
Our next destination is the mystic island of Siquijor, known for its epic waterfalls and voodoo traditions. Will we come across any witchcraft? We then head to the city of Dumaguete, the base to explore Apo Island, home to venomous sea snakes and plenty of turtles. After that, we move back to Cebu Island and Oslob, the location of the endangered whale shark. Next, it's the beautiful town of Molbol, perfect for snorkeling and well known for the famous Kawasan Falls. We then take a flight from Cebu to the island of Palawan, located in the west of the Philippines. Our first destination there is the stunning town of El Nido.
You have to risk your life and limb to get to the secret beach.
And finally, we catch a ferry to Coron for some more epic boat tours and sea life.